We try.
I love that media trains, but I'm just going to do media trained. I love that. But I'm just going to do a very quick intro and we are going to
Yeah.
get right in because I'm super excited. One, about seeing you
Excited.
again,
What?
Maria. And then I'm also excited about asking you some questions, Dorothy. So when after the intro, we'll start with Dorothy, and then we will go to Maria. Okay. So hello, everybody. Welcome to Disabilities Redefined with Dr. Wagner. I am Dr. Truett Wagner, and I am here with two very talented ladies. Dorothy Ellen Palmer has written numerous books, very, very well received, and well, you might as well say just both publicly and professionally, if that's even the right way of putting it, because the public loved them and her critics loved them as well. So, Kerfuffle, and Dorothy, if I'm not pronouncing anything right, please let me know. Kerfuffle, a novel that speaks spoof to power. When now say it. Now, I always get tongue tied. When Fenelon falls.
Fenlon.
Fenelon.
Fenlon. Forget the second E. It's just Fenlon.
Finland. When Finland falls, and then Falling for Myself, a memoir. And Maria is Maria Sweeney, everybody. Hello, Maria.
Hi, I'm back. No, thank you.
Yeah, this is Maria's second time on the show, and we kept in touch between that time and this time. And of course, I always follow your career, Maria. And she is also an author within herself. She wrote. Now, is doing quite well, Maria. Brittle Joints.
It's
That
coming
short.
out this June.
Yes.
Yeah, it was already published, and now a publisher picked it up, and it's coming out in June.
Brittle Joints is coming out in June, and I think it is on pre-order, already doing quite well,
Yeah.
if I understand. Yes, exactly. So you can get it on pre-order. And
Yes.
collectively, however, they have written a beautiful book. I don't know where the camera is. I don't know what's going on, but we'll edit this
I got
in
it
quite a few
too.
times. Yes.
Yes.
The Scooter Twins.
Yes, Dorothy wrote it. Oh my goodness, girl.
Yes.
Yes.
So what I read it and I thought about it and then I read it again. I'm just going to start out with the most cliched question because I really have to ask this question, Dorothy. Where did the inspiration come from? I know it's so cliched, but everybody watching will probably want to go buy it, and I'm sure other people will want to ask the question. These twins, getting in these mobility devices. Where was this inspiration? And their characters, I love their characters. They're saucy and sassy, and yeah.
Well, I don't think that question is cliche at all. I think it's a really important question. It came from three sources. First of all, about 3 years back, one of the leading Canadian newspapers here, the Toronto Star, did a survey of representation in kids' books and discovered in picture books there were virtually no children with disabilities, even though we are 27% of the population here in Canada. So that horrified me. And I wanted to be a part of correcting that. The other source of inspiration are my two children. The twins are slightly based on my son and my daughter, who are very different personalities, as are Melanie and Melvin in the book, very different and almost conflicting personalities sometimes. And then lastly, my own mobility scooter, Rosie, has been a source of great inspiration in my life, made in my life open up in all kinds of new ways, and given me a clear insight into the kind of barriers that people with physical disabilities face, because there are still so many buildings I can't get into. So life with Rosie inspired the life of the Scooter Twins.
Did you call kids and say, by the way, will you say this? Or did you just go to the park and listen? Again, I'm not trying to lead you, but people might want to know the answer to that question, and much less people who are interested in writing children's books.
Yes, I think a large part of it came from being a parent, because I could remember what my kids were like at that age. And I was a teacher for
Oh,
all of my life,
yes.
mostly high school, but 5 years of my life was elementary. So I drew on that too.
Hmm.
But I also did show it to a lot of friends of kids,
Mm.
um, who would show it to their kids and got some feedback as well. I failed a lot in the first drafts. The language was stilted and heavy, and the messaging was a little too over the top. So I had to learn how to include some of the messages that I wanted to include without being too ham-fisted about it. So rewrite. Those 700 words were never rewritten so many times until I finally think I got something that a kid would enjoy and learn from at the same time, and that parents would enjoy reading to the
Yes.
kid and
Yes.
learning from at the same time.
Yes, and that was your lead. Now you're leading me. That was going to be my next question, because again, you always in the back of your mind think, who's really going to be reading this?
Mhm.
Yeah. So that was a good point. So it's something you hit on. I know I'm just going to go there, but what were the most frustrating times? You said that you failed a few times in the. People don't understand. Writing a children's book is writing a book. It's not, you just don't make it up. I mean, you just don't go off there in fantasy land. You really write a book here, and it goes through draft after draft. I mean, I had focus groups. So, what was frustrating for you? And that's kind of a personal question for me. I'm just curious to know, when were you more frustrated?
I think I was, well, I'll give a confession first. The very first draft of this book rhymed.
Oh my gosh.
It rhymed.
Oh.
And my editor got back to me and said, "Nice try, dear."
It's like no rhyming.
No, not rhyming.
Yeah.
So it was very hard for me to let go of that. And then it was very hard for me to realize that when they said 700 words, they didn't mean 701 words. So it was really frustrating and difficult for me to keep paring back and paring back. And I wanted to put something more in, I'd have to take something else out. I found that really frustrating, to still keep their voices authentic and
Hmm.
to still keep some of the humor and to still keep some of the nuance. It was that writing to that limited amount of word count was really hard for me.
Quickly before we go to Maria, the personalities. What the little boy likes frogs, and she likes what is it? Yeah.
Motorcycles.
Where was the wolf handles? What was all that about? And yeah, I'm not going to
I
show
wanted
that. Yeah, I'm not going to show that picture. I want the audience to go and buy the book and know what we. I'll edit in other photographs, but the wolf handles, that'll be our little secret until they go buy the book. Okay, but
Okay,
I'm
okay.
curious. Where did those wolf handles come from? What was all that about? I love it.
I think I think I was very conscious. I do work in my adult life as an accessibility activist, and I was very conscious in these books of avoiding stereotypes and avoiding tropes.
Yes.
For example, that disabled people are poor, pathetic, and sad and lonely.
Yes.
So Melanie's personality is outgoing and feisty and damn near rude at times. She really is, not a typical little disabled sweet girl that, you would see in a cliche kids book or kids book from the 1950s, right? Heidi, that kind of thing, a disabled child image.
Right.
And Melvin, on the other hand, I wanted to play with some stereotypes of masculinity because he is the one who's shy. He is the one who's withdrawn. He's not outgoing. He's very afraid to get on his scooter. He's the kind of kid that always gets left out. And I wanted between the two of them to do some sort of gender bending a little bit, but also to say, look, disabled kids come in all shapes and sizes, in all personalities, in all of the ways that they
Wonderful.
approach their disability.
Wonderful. Yeah, that was
And the
amazing.
wolf handles, to specifically answer the question, the wolf handles remind her of her father, who loved motorcycles, who was a real motorcycle dude and had, all the gear and paraphernalia. So they reminded her of him.
Yes, wonderful. And her mother is a very talented, or was a very talented artist. Yes. Now,
Much like Maria.
yes, I was going to go there. The one of my favorite characters, though, that has a presence but doesn't really say, well, they can't say anything because they're not a person, is that white cat. Beautiful illustrations of the cat, and so welcoming and homey. How did you two collaborate? What did you meet like over Zoom? And how, Maria, what was it like working with an accomplished writer like Dorothy? And when you got your assignments, how did you go about channeling what Dorothy wanted from cognition to the printed page? Let's go there.
Well, first the cat. I love the cat too. That wasn't in the script, but I just thought the cat would make such a good way to give that homey feeling and also give a sense of time because you see the cat very briefly kitten.
Yes.
With the mom.
Yes.
And and I had recently come into a relationship with a cat recently in my life at that time. So I was very inspired by being a cat person for the first time in my life. So I put that in the book and I'm glad they were like, yeah, that's good. But in terms of collaborating, yeah, me and Dorothy did Zoom conversations. We had a lot of back and forth with the character development, the character design work. And honestly, thankfully, art school does prepare you to do to really kill your darlings, you really don't need to the end result is going to make you much happier than some of these moments in the beginning where you're like, oh, but I really like that. But things change and it ends up being a more cohesive piece. I also I was hired to do the art. So I'm really open to do whatever is kind of assigned to me. That's sort of the beauty and the challenge of it. I felt there was a very balanced blend of having structure because I did want structure. I didn't want to go in with no sense of I knew I remember Dorothy, you asked me what were you thinking for the color palette, and so I shared what I was thinking, and you were like yes, 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 and if you said could we emphasize purple, and I was like yes, 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 and so I think just here I had a lot of freedom in this commission. And then also just enough structure so that I didn't feel like I was losing my mind and I had to come up with an entire world on my own. But also part of the job is creating a world and making and doing a world planning and story building. And then my favorite part in terms of, I mean, you didn't ask me my favorite part, but I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
My favorite part was the details. Don't get me started, Doctor. You know how I am.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but my favorite part was definitely the details and being able to draw things that kids draw, like drawing on pieces of paper, what the kids would draw out at that age. But yeah, there's a lot of communication, a lot of collaboration. And also, I mean, Groundwood Books is a very established publisher already. So this is not nearly the first time that they've orchestrated, a long distance team. But I do think we are the first disabled adoptee team because we're both adopted and disabled. Yep.
Yes.
So I think we're the first in the world, but I don't know.
Yeah, well,
we might be, but yeah.
I guess that I love what you said about the structure, and I love what you said for if there are any, students out there in a university or an art school that are planning on making a living out of being an artist. You are hired to do the work as an artist, so you are hired. But as an artist, you like to bring some of yourself to that too. That's what being an artist is about. I'm a writer. Dorothy, you can understand that. You are a very accomplished writer, and you also taught improv. What was it there? Improv? Improv is, there you go. So you're a double artist, okay? How much of this book is you?
Well, I would say, I'll be honest, I'm in it. I drew myself in it. I drew myself in the book, in one of the scenes, because I was so um, to witness like children having disabled joy and disabled access is something that I did not have as a child, and so I drew myself in when they're receiving the delivery of their scooters. They're on the bottom floor, but on the top floor there's people looking all around and surveying, and I'm in the top window
Yeah.
and I'm looking down,
Yes.
and it represents a lot for me. It represents the inaccessibility housing I've often dealt with, and that I was still dealing with even at the time of drawing that book, living on the second floor, multiple places, and kind of looking down and seeing another life that kind of mimics what I want, and feeling a lot of joy for those people receiving that. Um, and not knowing that later, like I might have opportunity where I do have an accessible life too. And now I do have a motorized wheelchair, which happened in the past 2 months. So that's very new. But when I drew myself in it, it was sort of a like, almost like a testament to myself of like, if you don't have it, girl, like other people do, and they're paving a more equitable world with and for you. And now I also have that wheelchair, and I can also create strides for people in ways I hadn't done before. But yeah, I literally drew myself in it because I felt so compelled to be physically witnessing these children and
Hmm.
it be in that world. So I would say that's as real as you can get it. Put a self portrait in there, but also, I mean, the color palettes. Purple was an emphasis on the script, but everything else was like my own type of drawn color palette. So like oranges and yellows and warm colors and spring. Yeah, the patterning, like all the little anything that involved like patterns on the clothes, all my idea. I really liked this was something in the script, but I liked exploring that was creating the masks for COVID consciousness on the
Hmm.
different folks around. Um, so I would say anything that I could put a little bit of myself in there, it's there.
Right.
Literally me.
Right. Was there and this is for the both of you. Okay. Was there ever a time that there was, for example, you guys had to getting back to because Dorothy, I don't know how much you know. I am a career counselor for disabled students on the university level. And I often find that when I'm getting my students out to go to the real world, so to speak, meaning work, if you want to call it that. Everybody's been living in the real world their whole lives. Come on, let's go there. But I mean,
Truly.
yeah, I don't even know what that
Truly.
means. Yeah. But, a lot of the counseling that we do now, the shift in trend is to not talk about how great and brilliant it's going to be, but to talk about, you're going to have to, go through things and whatever. We prepare them. As you were saying earlier, Dorothy, those days of everything being poor in sorrow and whatever within the disabled population is over. But you know what? We have a new era now, and the real world is out there, and everybody belongs to the real world. Okay, including the disabled students, and believe me, they are strong and capable of any kind of careers. I can say from 20 years of experience, that's a great thing to say. So, as you two were working together, was there ever any, Dorothy, I know you can see where I'm going with this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Was there ever anything that you guys clashed over that you really had to work through, and then how did you come to a resolution? Because it's a wonderful, I'm going to show it again, and we're going to edit it again, whatever, I don't know what camera they put me on. Maria, show your,
Yes,
yeah. Yeah. Yes. So, yeah. So how did you? Yeah. So
I'm not being Pollyanna when I say we really didn't clash.
right.
I know.
And I think part of that was Brownwood gave me a lot of leeway to choose an illustrator. And so when I discovered Maria's story and Maria's work, I immediately felt this attraction to both her story and her work, and honestly believed that there would never be an issue of representation. She would understand how the kids moved through the world, and the idea of also being adopted. really hit home with me because these are parentless children.
Oof.
And so it was really important and almost like a shining epiphanous moment that, that I discovered her work. And I think that with Groundwood being the intermediary a lot of the time with emails going back and forth, it was always a very thoughtful process. So there was never any moment of, hey, wait a minute, boom, boom. It was always very calm and thoughtful. And we didn't have any moments. I asked Maria for one change near the end about including some masks in one of the scenes that had been completely my fault and neglected it. And she did it immediately, and that change happened, and it was great. So no, it was a fabulous process,
That's
and there
great.
really weren't any snags in it at all.
That's
I
wonderful.
concur. Like Dorothy, yeah, I concur. Like, that's why I'm like, hire us again. We work really well, right? We work very seamless. But I felt the same way. In the same vein, like, Groundwood does provide that intermediate, yeah, like you said it best, right in the middle. But also, I'm friends with you on Facebook, Dorothy. If I was like, Groundwood isn't getting back to me, and I need to know this, and I need to know this now, I would have just messaged you and been like, hey, what's it supposed to be, But because I think you, not to toot my own horn, but you did find somebody that like knew how to do the bit. Like, I've done contracts before. This is not my first rodeo. So and it's not yours first rodeo. So I think that made it very easy. And also, I, this was a dream commission.
Oh,
I got to be in my element. I got to be in my community. I got to create fun, colorful art. It's not boring. It's not just like a black and white, which is also fine, but not as fun. And ultimately, as much as I am an author myself, I did not want to do the writing. I didn't want to. I wanted to do the art. So it was a mission. I did not have to do the writing. An amazing script was already provided for me. And so yeah, there was not. It went the smoothest thing the worst thing that happened but I ended up losing my job in my home the day that the commission was due. So that's
Yes.
unrelated, had nothing to do with the commission. And I had added different masks to one page, and then they were like, oh, can you add one more? And I had to, like, on the phone cry and be like, I can't, because I have to move in crisis. I can't add the mask. And I felt so ashamed because I'm like, this is an important commission and I can't do the edit. And they're like, yeah, I mean, you're homeless. Like, it's okay. Like, it's fine. But that the snag was because of the system, that pulls on disabled people and makes it hard for us to be employed. So yeah, not the book itself, not Dorothy, not Groundwood, but the system, which I think is really appropriate. That's why I brought it up, because our community is constantly affected disproportionately by housing insecurity, job insecurity, parents, caregiver insecurity, which this book, again, Grandma is a great caregiver and figure in this, but she's also a marginalized member as well.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay,
But
so
no
yeah. Okay. Final question, ladies. I'm going to be honest. I have done a horrible job at this interview. I have spoke way too much, but I was so excited when you didn't hear us earlier when the texts were getting us all ready. I actually made everybody leave because I just wanted to be in here with you together. Because either through art or education, I think we all had something in common. So I wanted this to be more like a little chit chat as opposed to really an interview. But I know sometimes they tell me, you Dr. Wagner, you spoke too much in the, so we have to edit it all out. I know I did a horrible job at this interview, and I really don't care because I was so excited to meet you guys all day. So but just quickly before we go, we have about 3-4 minutes left. Maria, just quickly, the 3 top things you think as an artist a book should have visually, and make it quick because we want to give Dorothy her time. Yeah.
Okay. Vibrancy. We want vibrancy. We want stories within a story. So that means little details and pockets of things that kids or adults can look at and be like, that's what are they doing in that area? And then the third thing, honestly, I think would be an awareness of what your values are. What are the values that we're putting out in this book? We're putting COVID consciousness, right? We're putting, accessibility. We're putting, racial equality. We're putting a lot of things. So I would say value. Well, you'll have to read it back what I said because I said it quick, but it was all those things: vibrancy, value, and then there was a third one I said.
The messages within messages.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes.
Thank you. Oh, details. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes. Detail.
Exactly.
Okay. Dorothy, a great writer. Children's books. What are the top 3 things that you think children want to read and/or be read about?
Maria, those were lovely, by the way. So when I think about it, I think of 3 things. I think, first of all, fun. I think there has to be some fun in the book, some joy, especially for disabled kids. We have to find that joy and authenticate that joy,
Yes.
which is a nice segue into the second thing, which is authenticity.
Yes.
They need to be real children, not just disabled children, real children. And they need to react and not be perfect all the time. And they need to conflict with each other and their parents or their guardians. They need to live in an authentic world. And Maria did a fabulous job creating that authentic world of the inner city, which I'm also very proud of because most books look middle class. This does not.
Yes.
I'm really glad about that. And after authenticity, I would say the same third thing as Maria. It's got to be some messaging. There's got to be something that makes you think about the book afterwards, hopefully in a way that enriches both the person reading it and the kids listening to it.
Love that. I love that so much.
Me too. I cannot thank you, ladies, enough. It has been a wonderful, wonderful day to end the day. I've been so excited about this all day. I love the book. I hope that people whoever's whether it's on TV or YouTube, if you're watching this, go buy this book. Okay, it's just that simple. Someone in your life is going to love it. The Scooter Twins, Dorothy Ellen Palmer and Maria Sweeney, and it can be found on anywhere they sell quality children's books as well. Amazon, Barnes, the whole 9 yards. It's out there everywhere. And that's it. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you both so much for taking time with us today.